sold a player for how much? People are so much in a hurry to sell a player because they need that money urgently to take care of recurrent expenditure.
Yeah, but the economy, sorry, I'm sorry for digressing, but the economy is not booming. Everybody is quotation marks happening.
Carl, I understand you, but until we do the things
that's what attracts people.
Transparent, you know, if you have sold a player, we must know how much you sold the player for, and what you're using the money for. It should reflect in your books and all that.
These are things which are important to investors. Like Kwabena said, you know, I talk about foreign direct investment. If your books and all these things are not right, investors, before they come in, they will study the terrain, they will study the environment. What pertains in Ghana? If I put in my money, am I going to get is sold and nobody knows how much it was? Even some years back, the contract papers are changed and all that. Nobody is addressing all those things. You see, when you sit down, if we want to revive our football and all the sporting disciplines, there must be some form of discipline, there must be some form of transparency and everything. Where such a people are working must be well paid. If the player is doing well, he has to be well paid and all that. We don't want a situation where nobody should know what is happening. People are contributing money, investing in a club. You are not rendering account. When you are asked to render account, you don't do it. People are going to the stadium. They are not paying for the ticket. When there is a match, the team expects to make so much. At the end of the day, the money ends up in people's private pocket. You know, look at the Cross Sport Stadium.
Cross board.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that if you don't plug these holes,
why did we say Shawokwe has died for nothing?
I beg you.
No, because Shawokwe's transfer brought some sanity into the transfer system, and we thought that was going to continue. But today we've gone back to what Kwaku is talking about. People transfer players, it's not transparent. We don't know how much the players were transferred, and some members around the club do not even know.
Okay, you know, okay, please come in and then I'll get.
I'm saying that I think very valid points have been espoused in terms of transparency, in terms of the right structures and all that. But I think beyond that, I keep making the point that football is about money. And once you don't have sound sponsorship in this country, it's going to be very, very difficult to get to levels where you're aspiring to get to. That is why I spoke about the paradigm shift. Because years back, why were we doing well? You know, on the local front, number one, we hadn't been hit by the exodus, and all our players were in this country. Again, we had some deep pockets who were growing, likes of BK Duse for Asante Kotoko, SK Manu,
Nyamite, Harry Thompson.
Absolutely.
Not Harry, Tommy Thompson.
Tom Thompson. I mean, these were deep pockets, like BK Duse, who purchased Robert Mensah for 1,000 for Asante Kotoko, got to say Kofi from Hearts to Kotoko. These were deep pockets. Again, the fact that all the players stayed in the country also helped. So, for example, Kotoko in the 70s when they won the Africa Cup. I mean, look at the array of stars: Robert Mensah, Danopong, Oliver Akwa, Brinya, Osei Kofi, Yassam, Malik Jaber. You know, they were all there, Bukari. But over a period, now we started getting hit by the exodus. So what do? You're going to stop it by legislation, because I hear a lot of people suggest that you can stop it by legislating. That is a no-go area. So what happens? My point is that under the current dispensation, it is impossible for most of our teams to really compete with the North Africans. We've had situations where teams are in the middle of Africa competitions and they're selling their players. Kotoko continues to do that. Only last season, whilst they were playing the league and they were topping the league, they sold their #1 striker to North Africa. How are you going to survive? It's not possible. So when I talk about a paradigm shift, I'm looking at the bigger picture beyond the transparency, beyond the structures. You need strategic investors in these teams. Without that, I'm afraid Hearts of Oak tried it, and I think Togbe has done tremendously for Accra Hearts of Oak. But I'm saying that you need to go beyond that. And that's the point I'm making, that I take a cue from England, where they have had foreign investors taking over the clubs. And that's where all the money is coming from.
Yes. With all due respect, if your laws, your regulations, your structures, and all those things are not in place, forget it.
So we're speaking the same language. Yes. The point I'm making is that you can have the structures must be right. There'll be transparency, all that. But I'm saying that beyond that,
in terms of the volume of money,
you need sound investment in these things. And that's why I talk about strategic investors in these teams.
Right. Let me get Kwabena view here, because once again I refer to the fact that the 60s and 70s were a different era from now, whether we like it or not, and people are playing for money. Ken, if you take a look around the continent, you find out that most of the clubs, apart from the North Africans and the South Africans, do not seem to be financially viable. But then again, the national teams seem to excel. What can we do then? At least, I know for this country, we all love our hearts, we all love our Kotoko, our dwarfs, Ibusian, whatever they are. But everybody loves the national team more. And if the national team is doing well and the others are not doing well, nobody cares a hoot. What can be done to move this thing forward for us to get back to the lofty heights that you used to see in your era, and obviously we saw within the 2006 to the 2014 era here?
Yeah, I am happy that inadvertently I was able to change the topic a bit. We are now talking about how professional we are. And I am very happy that all the panelists are talking about transparency. It's very important. Mr. Yeboah talks about the investors. Investors will only come when they see there's transparency and there is complete openness. That answers the question. But getting back to the national team, I think we need to build from the clubs. If the clubs are doing well, obviously we will have a good national team. We were lucky that we had, in the 20s, we had a team like Liberty. And if you analyze carefully, you see that we had a lot of these stars from Liberty. But that was his purpose, to train stars for the national team. If you are able to get 2 or 3, mean that maybe we shall get back to where we were.
But Ken, there is this example. I had a discussion with your colleague Joe Agri, and even with you. In the era after 1970, we didn't qualify for any tournament until we decided to host it in 78. After 1984, we didn't qualify for any tournament until Bokatiza came in 92.
Yes.
But we didn't complain about the level of, or the sort of football that was being played at club level. So therefore, what happened? Because now we are qualifying consistent, so that when we go there, well, the last 2 tournaments, we've left with a smile going somewhere else. But as a veteran sports journalist who's seen it all, what would you do if you were sitting in the post today and asking yourself, how do I get this team to move forward? Forget about the money aspect. That one, we don't have it. How will you be able to move this forward?
You see, there's no way we can forget about the money aspect. As I'm saying, football now is full of money. So everybody wants to form a club and get players to stay. That is our number one thing. Until we put up structures and regulations and enforce them, I don't think we will just back time. You go and it will be a cycle. We go back forth. We can't reach anywhere.
Carl, Carl, it's a very good question, but let me ask you one question. There is no way any country's football would develop and improve at the national level when the domestic game is not improved. I'm being frank with you, because you see, the domestic players give competition to those who are outside. For England is today doing well because the influx of other players from other parts of the world into the English league. Yeah. Look, recently you saw the performance of a country like Sudan, because players from even Ghana and the rest are now playing in the Sudanese league. Players from South Africa are playing the Sudanese league, so it's coming up. Today, Ethiopia, they have close to about 30 players from other countries playing in their league. If we want improving our local league, getting people to come in,
improve without sinking in so much money in your local league.
So you see, you made a mention of one issue. It got to a time in this country, let me be frank with you, Kwaku. So people say that, oh, let's build our own clubs and kill Kumasi as the dominance of Kumasi as and Kotoko and Accra as a. It can never happen. Because Kumasi as and Kotoko and Accra as a will make the other teams better. So if has Kotoko are doing well, the other teams will do well.
What are we doing at the moment? What are the causes? The effects. We've sank all over the years.
I will not cut. The state still pumps money into development. The game, you have to.
Follow the game. The state cannot say, "Oh, it's not." We are not going to go there. No. There has to be effort. We must. There must state had been strong enough to say, hang on, House of Folk, we are giving you deadline. Develop your this thing. Yes.
Where I totally agree with the fact that the states should get involved in the promotion and development of football is the fact that you remember years back.
Not only football, all sports.
All sports. I thought we were talking about football. Yeah, that's why I'm limiting the football.
Okay. All right.
You know, is the fact that years back, you remember, the government that time was the government was making so much money from their gates, because once governments were sponsoring the clubs in Africa, they were manning the gates and they thought they were making money. So Cohesion has decided to sell sponsor, and that's why government decided to back off. But as Kwaku said, we've got to a point where most of our players, they are concerned about the fact that our coast football is died. Now academies have taken over. But the difference here is that there is so much selfishness with academy structure. It's all about nurturing players, when I even players who are not right are sold outside. You know, I took a cue from when I visited to churn out some of these players over the years. I can imagine the number of players we're producing over a long period. For example, when those days were players and the largesse of individuals, those days are gone.
They're long gone.
They're long gone. People are investing their money. That's right.
Yeah.
It collapsed. I think, taking a cue from what Feyenoord did, if we can embark on such a project for the state to develop these academies across the nation, and hope that the managers will not be greedy and selfish by inviting people through connections, and will be doing the right things. I believe it will be a major step towards addressing some of these issues, because also in the past we relied so much on, for example, the academicals, the New Horizons.
Now the government for some period now has been over concentrating on the superstructure.
Yes.
Using the basics.
That is not my problem.
Look, you wait till the national team, wherever they are coming from, and you give $100,000 to one player. Do you know how much, how many players we can develop with $100,000 at the base?
Okay, so you know what?
What I'm saying is that
Should the FA develop a paper and approach the government for that kind of assistance?
What I'm trying to say is that, look, we are over concentrating on the Black Stars.
All right.
We are sinking too much money there.
That away. All right. We're going to continue from where Kwaku ended up. That is, are we focusing too much on the Black Stars. One, we're going to look at other aspects like juju and all manner of things that tend to permeate within our society that is brought into our football. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
In a world where you can be anything, who will you become? When you can go anywhere and never be alone, how far will you go? When your voice can reach every ear in the world, who will you inspire? When your money can travel faster and further, who will it reach? When you can tell a story in every language, which one will you tell? When you don't need permission to turn your dreams into reality, you go for it. Whatever it is, wherever it is, go. And when you think you've reached your limit, we'll keep you going. Let's
Malcolm's Super Silver card has 50 Ghana cedis and above every first and third Wednesday each month.
Super
Silver card.
The original CD Silver.
Terms and conditions apply. Errors and omissions accepted.
Malcolm, where Ghana shop.
of the local organizing committee of Accra (2023). That's Dr. Kwaku Fosuasari, the Honorable Member of Parliament for the Ododo constituency in Greater Accra, Nii Lante Vanderpuye. Of some of you guys who are actually watching, what has been the cause and the problems facing Ghana football, and this is what they came out with.
The GFA board itself should be what's disassembled. You know, there has to be a whole different thing, or a whole different, I don't know, there has to be a fresh start where we can, you know, tap from talents or to adult. We have to tap from our own, you know, local talent. People have played before, people are very candid about things. People want to, like, you know, push the Ghana for it. Not some people just want to be there because, okay, coach, I've once been a technical member. Of Stephen appeared, likes of Asamoah, and they have the expertise. They have been on the pitch. They know how or what it takes to be there. They have seen all, I think so. So we have to start from people like them. You know, when we go from that place, now we can say, okay, Ghana's, you know, we're getting.
The Canada said 10 years back. Now we're about football. And you're my chain near dear, yes, so you need flag, you were the necessary to me up and down. You need football. To Ghana match, I would do come out to say yes, Ghana rebel match. By Yeah, we do Ghana bo match. We who say Ghana for your match. I just want to say go be and find where be so maybe for Ghana your match. By this time we am born me dear. And pay for one shadow one in I say.
Ghana's football is dead. Let me put it simply put, it's dead. And the second thing that is making the industry not to grow is the politics. Not too much of the politics that is being played around it. You understand? And I think if you want to grow football itself to the highest, standard, then we have to look at the basics. The basics in terms of, going down to the level and then, scouting for talent, genuine talent, not some big.
Well, I suppose they are actually speaking their mind, aren't they, and telling you what my panelists and my guests have actually been echoing. It's just that we have a larger platform than they do. But clearly, it's permeating. Somebody used a word I thought was a bit harsh, but sincerely, I mean, that's putting it bluntly. The last guy who said it was like, okay, let me use a better word. It was a bit rubbish.
Just translate it in. Why are you trying to polish it? If something is torn up, it's rotten. Why are you trying to polish it? That's what the guy said, and I can, and I understood him. So why are you trying to placate it? Why are you trying to just say it? And so, are they at Apra? How do you?
Don't ask Kwabena.
You see, that is why all this, my brothers and sisters, my brothers, all I am saying, we should accept that we are on the decline. How do you come out of it? That is the crucial thing. And you see, the government, individuals, club owners, we media people, corporate bodies and all, we all have a role to play. It's the way we structure it and allow people to play the roles expected and put in place the right laws and rules and regulations for people to see that, look, if I'm going to put in my money here, this is likely to be the result. And then if I'm going to the stadium, it's also it's unpredictable. I don't know who's good. We have another thing that has crept in, betting, and we are sitting down watching. We are watching betting, and people are doing this, and it's affecting performance, and we are not doing anything about it.
I'll get to that part.
You see? So all these things have fed into the Atitia Pro.
Let me get Kwabena Yeboah's views on.
I said all these things have fed into the Atitia Pro. You are worried about the Atitia Pro.
No.
Those days you used to say that. Now you say you are 60 years. So you are not going to be harsh.
So this, it happens. As you grow older, you tend to be a bit more milder. But 30 years ago, I probably would have used worse words here. But Mr. Bediako, the Vox Pop that we had, the words that were used by some, Atitia Pro, simply means that it's torn to pieces and it's. Is there any way back as far as you're concerned? And if there is, what do you expect to be done?
Yes, I expect the government to continue to intervene and not excuse mind those words talking about interference. I don't know what they mean by interference. I think the government should go back to basics, go back to how we started in the past. Academicals, someone mentioned it, very important. Yeah. We make sure that the academicals. We are talking about vigilance. When we won the cup first time in '63, and then in Tokyo the following year, Griffin and others flop. We had a system. There was a system. So that was why we had still Griffin and others to defend the cup, the Africa Cup. And then we had those and others coming up in 1970. We had it went to the final. by 69, 70, we had Kwabena and others. So we must have a system, and now we are lucky that we have the home-based Black Stars. I think we must try and make use of that team, learn the Meteors.
Mr. Bediako,
if you go system, yes.
Mr. Bediako, some would argue, and some would say, that winning the African Cup of Nations in 1963 and 1965 was you play 3 games and you have won the tournament. Now, you go to a whole stretch of qualifying series, and when you get there to win the tournament, you would have to play a minimum of 6 games. What do you have to say to that?
Yes, and for the rest, we had 12 clubs in the league. We had elite clubs playing. It's just that the World Cup. Really, Brazil won only 60 clubs. The whole world, 16 clubs. But now, how many do we have? So it's not it's the quality, not the quantity. We had, but how do I give that? If there were only 6 clubs and we won, how come that the others are taking over for us? It's that we're not planning. But I think that it's not late. We can go back to basics, make sure that we have the academic class, especially. Then luckily we have the materials, so that systematically they will take over. That is it.
Okay, let me come back to the studio and try and take this argument to the national team level that many have been complaining and crying about. And you know, the irony of it is that after this recent tournament, somebody told me something and it hit me more than most. Said that, you won it 4 times. I said, yes. But when they were black and white, GBC had not even gone color. That's the first thing that he mentioned. Then he added this amazing thing that I used last week. That since we last won the tournament, Cameroon have won it 5 times.
Yeah.
Egypt have won it 5 times. Yeah. Ghana has won it zilch.
Yeah. You know, I think, let's go back to a bit.
Okay.
I do not think that anybody can discount the role that our former president, Osagyefo Dr. Kwabena Yeboah, also played at the early stages of our success story. Because Kwabena Yeboah loved football so much so that he created the the Republicans. And I think his vision was to use football as a catalyst to unite the African continent. So he formed the Republicans, as magisterial or as tyrannical as it sounded, quite draconian. And a number of the teams resisted that move. But it served as the nucleus of the Black Stars. They played in the league on non-competitive basis. And the early 60s, what it meant was that any time the national team was going to play, we had the team already assembled. There was that cohesion, there was that chemistry, and all they needed to do was to just add 1 or 2 players to the Republicans to form the national team. So 63, 65, very successful. And then we'll be talking about the intervention of the state. I think also 1978 when we won it, you can't discount the role played by the former president, Ignatius Putua-Champo, to declare what we call the No League. So the whole team had to be flown to Brazil to prepare for the 78 Africa Cup of Nations. So that was a solid team, and I'm so fond of that team. I mean, Joseph Ka, Haruna, you see Awulekwe, the captain of the side, Adai Chenchayeni, Adofama, Abdul Razak, Mohamed Polo, Kuntu Blank Singh, and Ketia Yose. That was a solid team. Before we started the competition, many Ghanaians knew we were going to win the trophy. And we did win. Indeed, it was the first time I saw short corner case when they returned from Brazil. So we had prepared the team. It took us a very long time for us to win again in 1982. You know, we were even struggling to qualify for the Africa Cup of Nations until 82, when we won with the remnants of the 78 squad. And then after 82 in Cote d'Ivoire,
remnants of the 78 squad and the Black Meteors of the time.
And the Black Meteors
of the time.
A few
so
of
the succession plan was
That's
there.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's right.
succession plan.
So we then won the trophy. Not many people give any chance at all, because there was that political interference. The then president of the land, Dr. Hillary Liman, may so rest in peace, I declared that we're not going to participate in Libya. And then there was this coup d'etat by a former president, Jerry John Rawlings, may so also rest in peace, who at the last I decided that we should participate. Cracks of the matter.
Yes,
all right.
That is where the issue is.
Because I thought it's a longer program, so we're developing it. Because there was that selflessness. Because SK Manu, in 1982, when he was the FA president, used part of his resources as a contractor to even fund the Black Stars when we went to Libya to win the trophy. And those days, the leadership of the of the FA was about commitment to the national cause. It was about dedication. It was never about getting money into their pocket. So the likes of HP Nyamitei, Zach Bintu, Lawton Akayesu, you know, all of them. And then suddenly things changed. So the whole lot of issues that have to be discussed. You see, emphasis on the Africa Cup. We're so excited about the Africa Cup. So when teams like Morocco and Cameroon were going to the World Cup, weren't paying too much attention until at a point that the whole nation decided we've had enough of this refrain of four-time Africa champions want to go to the World Cup, and then we started going to the World Cup. But again, talking about the succession plan, you know the
yes. The North were not playing fair, but let also not forget that at that time, CAF in its clause infinite wisdom,
but
was not allowing any foreign base player in Europe to come and play. Only one.
But the other thing that has affected us briefly. And they abandoned our way of playing. If you go to Brazil, if you're handling the Brazilian national team, there's no way you abandon the Brazilian style.
What do you say?
What we do now.
Is that to be hosting programs?
Yes,
we will be hosting programs. So.
That time, you had very good players.
That's
who had picked up.
Absolutely. That's another conversation altogether.
So we will have another conversation, but cannot have it like that all the time.
Absolutely. That's
look at our league system. When
Yes, for historical purposes, I would like to make some comments about the Republicans, the Norwegian.
Please go on. Please go on.
Yeah. I would say Cohesion is like Henry Cote currently, the regional minister. He was full of ideas. So, was searching for a lot of trouble. And what he did was most autocratic. He selected the two best players from the top league class. Bayara and others. And you know the problem they had. And because protocol, all the clubs were against it, and especially protocol. Kotoko threatened to boycott the league, and for threatening to boycott the league, Ohija dismissed Kotoko, said they were not going to take part, but they sacked them for the league. It was a big problem, and then Kwabena said it was more or less the political problem. Eventually, Ohija had to change his mind, but for them to change his mind, Kotoko were forced to play all their first round matches at Nkoko at the home ground.
I know.
One was said anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting saying that. But people have forgotten the ramifications that came out of it. Now, because I've done my research on the Republicans. Now, anytime Republicans met Kotoko, anytime Republicans met Hearts, it was like a war zone.
Yes.
It was like a war zone.
What happens? It brings the best out of the Kotoko players.
No. Nii Lante, I didn't mean that war zone. War zone. Not bringing the best out of it.
Meaning supporters and all that.
It was.
Yes, that's what made football. That's what made football interesting. That's what made football interesting.
But Carl, you see, you can
rivalry brings the best in.
Okay, let's listen to Ken. Ken, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was saying that eventually it paid off because they had all the good players coming together, and it was easy to form a national team. It was easy to form a national team.
We all sitting here.
But you see, Ken, the situation has changed now. We cannot have the academicals and the Republicans now. Things have changed. Under the current circumstance, what can we do as a country moving forward? Look, if I had my own way, our secondary school, the years will be 4 years at least. But if we are going to go by what we currently have, the students come home and they sit at home for a period. Why can't we use the period for sporting activities?
Kwaku, you see, the issue is that the Ghana Education Service itself, its calendar, do not have accommodation for sports now. They do biennial sports. So if you play football this year, next year you won't play football. The final year. So if, assuming you go to SHS, the first year you play football, the second year you play football, the third year you're going to write your exams, so you even have time to play football. So then your talent is gone.
Okay, can we move this discussion forward into...
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is what I'm calling for policy changes. This is what I'm saying for policy changes.
I agree with you. You see,
it's what we're calling for policy changes.
As we sit here, we've talked about one thing: consistency, cohesion, systematic, phasing out of players and all those things. Do you know why we suffered in the Cup of Nations? Between 2 years, we've used 161 players.
That's another matter altogether. Think that
when the Black Stars are playing, people jubilate when the Black Stars lose. Yeah. Why is it so? Why?
It's interesting.
These are issues we must all think together and find solutions. Why are people not supporting the Black Stars any longer? What is the problem?
Discussion.
Yeah. You understand me? So these are things we cannot sweep under the carpet.
We will not sweep it under the carpet.
We have to address all these issues.
We will not sweep it under the carpet. Let's just take a little. Tony told Kwabena in his interview.
FC.
The Goal FC.
Yeah. Goal FC. Yeah, Goal FC. I was decided that, after the football, I also want to give to the society. Right. So because I want to also find Tony Yeboah. Okay. And so I decided to just groom the team. I bought the bars. I have a very good coach, friend Paul, so I have to take care of the players and everything. But what I realize is the Ghana football, when you don't pay the referee, you don't win.
You have to bribe the referees.
You have to. No, you don't have to. They have to come to you. and ask you, and the referee was so, bad. It was, officiating was very, very bad. And I went to the referee. I said, referee, do you know me? Who are you? Oh, I'm a Kwabena Yeboah. But the way you handled the match, it's not good.
Yeah. And what did he tell you?
I said, no. So this is your first time you are coming to the league.
Well, so these are some of the problems we're having when we're trying to save our passion. I mean, you heard it from him.
You see, I talk about laws. I talk about rules and regulations. Which foreign investor, even the local environment, and sees that this is what pertains in this environment, do you think you come and invest his money here?
Of course not.
When this came out, when you have referees with money in their socks running around,
number 12,
and all those things, what were the measures we took to correct all this? What were the measures? Actually, you see, now they didn't come out with VAR. Okay, every time they're trying to improve, to ensure. So what I'm saying is that as a state, the state cannot sit down on aloof watching this. How do we grow?
That's the problem. That comes to, you see, you all agree. I was vilified when I was Minister of Sports, because I tried to put some corrective measures in the way our national teams were being run. Because I could not just fathom how a state like Ghana will continue to spend $1.something million on one blaster match.
How much?
One play. Business class, you understand? And people who sometimes instead of taking the business, every plane fare there's graduation, even if it's business class, you could sit in business class and pay $1,000. I could sit in business class and pay $600. To cut some of these things and make some people unhappy. That's the only way you can correct the system. But I'm saying that, Kwaku, in this country, as soon as you try to do that, you become the public enemy. Because those people who are benefiting from is that Nii Lante doesn't like you, so he said we should not bring you, we should bring local players to come and play a match. When at that time we were playing against a team, 100%, almost 100% of their players playing their local league for Paralympic games, but there was no budget. Amount of money on blasters alone. Why don't we use part of that money to finance the Paralympics so that we can use our local? After all, Jones Atukofio used Accra House of Oak to play against Nigeria.
Yeah.
You understand me? This about, I'm coming to that issue, Carl. You say, how do we correct these things? Carl, let me be frank with you. We will need another program to be able to diagnose effectively and look forward. Because like Kwaku said, I totally agree with him.
Strategic planning. Strategic planning.
I visited St. George's car. I asked myself, how can football take this type of human beings? I had the privilege of working when I was in Manchester as a janitor at Old Trafford. I wish I could have done that work until my pension. Just cleaning the chairs after match, cleaning the toilets, and the
it's not too late.
Now. Okay. How can we move it forward?
Well, I think our current president, Kwaku, is decided we should bring back the love. And that's what Kwaku rightly pointed out. These days, when the national team is playing, unfortunately and quite regrettably, there are more people who don't really care about the national team. Pure apathy. And that those who even wish the national national team ill. How did we get to this point? In my humble opinion, for me, it started after Brazil attract appearance fees. Are you a player?
Also,
appearance fees. It doesn't make sense. It's unethical. It's an unconscionable. And at that point, a number of Ghanaians felt that and people were shocked. So you see, I was almost in tears when I was running commentary 2014 World Cup, when the news broke that the national team had boycotted training because their monies hadn't arrived. I was in total shock. Why was I in shock? So apart from the fact that a lot of Ghanaians felt very disappointed with the conduct of the players, they all very disappointed with the conduct. I did categorically. Maybe I was being style. Players of the black style. Indeed, I was in Kumasi, a number
automatically the management members also get more. Okay. And do you know what was the cost of that? Because of their so-called what do you call it? The money they put in the budget for ways and means and all those things. They put it together. It's a huge sum of money, and then they share it for everybody around the FA.
Okay, if you say drugs, it means something else.
Even in a local league, players have been made to believe that when you are playing home, so even at the national team level, that is also the belief there. Playing in Italy. Your teams pay bribe. You know. To win matches. They say, oh, you know, no solo. I mean, that place is different. You see, Kwaku, I agree with you. Unless we sit down and take a holistic view.
Look at issues.
When I'm there, that